From the UBS Broadcast Center at Union University, this is Jackson 24/7 College News Conference.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Friesen. Sunday was the day of our annual shared event as a nation. The Super Bowl began 50 years ago. When it started, no one knew it would change the face of advertising, social gatherings, and the national conversation. In fact, some observers believe the Super Bowl hastened the end of Sunday evening services for many churches. However, others say that college and pro sports are at a crossroads. Major concerns about the long-term impact of concussions and whether college athletes should be paid are bringing a debate as to the future of athletics.
It was a day either of miracles
Is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football, and they're saying it's a catch.
or, if you're an Atlanta fan waiting 51 years, it was the ultimate heartbreak.
Toss to White. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl has changed our culture, but yet it's still just a game despite the emotional upheavals.
These are the kinds of things that I'm trying to teach the little athletes that live in my house and the little athletes that I coach.
But as the money grows bigger and as the demands grow higher, scandal has continued to expand in college and professional sports. The sexual assault scandal at Baylor University is one that has rocked the college football world. Accusations of sexual assaults by athletes have expanded, not just at Baylor, but at the University of Tennessee and at Minnesota.
You really get the sense that in this case, the needs of the victims, the lives of the victims were sort of taking a backseat to the rise of the football program, which is a sad thing.
The constant demands to feed athletics and fan bases who want to win at all costs.
So I think you're going to see an increase in this, sadly. Sports being a little microcosm of society, I think you see a school like Baylor making compromises in terms of the kinds of athletes that they're willing to recruit.
Today, a sports journalist who has written more than 20 books on sports issues affecting the world of athletics is here to meet the community's college media.
Our newsmaker this week is making his first visit to Jackson 24/7 College News Conference. He is a noted author and sports journalist, and he's also professor of journalism at Union University. Our guest is Professor Ted Kluck. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So every week, our panel includes 3 students from the city's colleges and universities. They will question our central newsmaker for the entire half hour. Now let's meet our 3 panelists for this week's College News Conference. On the far left is Ali Renckens, a journalism major at Union University and an anchor reporter on the Jackson 24/7 news team. In the middle is Seirra Person, a mass communications major at Lane College. On the far right is a first-time panelist on College News Conference. We welcome Ashton from Jackson State Community College. We'll conduct 3 rounds of questioning on a variety of topics today involving issues in American sports. Each panelist will ask 2 questions in each segment, in turn, moving clockwise. At the end of our broadcast, we give our guests the opportunity to share any final thoughts. Our first topic is the Super Bowl and its impact on American culture. Our first 2 questions will be from Ali Renckens.
Okay, so we have to start with the obvious question. Can you size up Sunday's game between the Falcons and the Patriots?
Yeah, it was a really fun game in that, you know, it's sort of like if you're in an altercation in a parking lot in the middle of the night, you have to kind of finish the job. You know what I mean? And Atlanta had every opportunity to put this game away, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't salt the game away. Obviously, you don't give Tom Brady repeated opportunities with the football, and they paid the ultimate price last night.
Yeah. So 50 years ago, when the Super Bowl began, the World Series was still the most watched and anticipated event of the year. What changed that, and why has baseball kind of lost its position as the national pastime?
You know, it's a great question. I think there's something about football that really captures the imagination of the American. You know, it's the violence, the pageantry. I think the fact that you only play the one game, you know, the World Series stretches sometimes over 7 games, and there's a sense that even in the course of a long baseball season that each game doesn't matter. But I think each Sunday in the NFL really does matter. It has a huge impact on the standings, and we like that. We like that immediacy and the color and the violence and the excitement of the game.
Our next 2 questions will be from Seirra Person.
Advertisers now spend up to $10 million for 1-minute commercial time on the Super Bowl. How effective is that, and especially when some of the commercials only run that one time?
Yeah, I really don't know. You know, I think a lot of the commercials last night were almost more like short films. So you had a hard time ascertaining even what the product was that was being sold. So it would be hard from an advertising perspective to look at that and say, you know, that was effective. I think the best ads are still the direct ads. I think the ads where you know what the product is that's being sold, and the ads that are funny, the kind of ads that people talk about around the water cooler the next morning.
So let's talk about something that we talked about in the open. How and why has Super Bowl Sunday reshaped our culture? Because originally the Super Bowl was played in the daytime.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's in prime time now, so obviously it's the kind of the biggest television event of the year. And I think one of the weird things about it as a shaper of culture is that it's almost become a bloated parody of itself. I think there was a sweet spot probably in the 70s or the 80s where the game was, it really was a great event. It was big. It was a reward at the end of the season, obviously, for fans and teams who had stuck with it. But I think now it's just, at some level, an example of everything that's bad and excessive about our culture. And it always leaves me, I think, at the end of the night with a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, feeling like, man, is this a reflection of who we are?
And our last two questions will come from Ashton Rich.
So we're seeing more traffic on social media during the Super Bowl than at any other time during the year. One psychologist says it's the ultimate collision
between ecstasy and emotional trauma. What is it that brings out the best and worst of us on social media during Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's a desire to be the show. When I was a football player, the worst insult you could get from a coach was, Kluck, you're trying to be the show. You know, don't be the show. But I think social media has allowed all of us to kind of try to grab a little bit of the spotlight, even in the midst of a big event like Super Bowl Sunday, where the spotlight truly is on great performers. So you see a lot of people, celebrities and regular folks too, trying to get a little piece of fame, a little hit of affirmation on social media, and the Super Bowl is a great platform for that.
And in recent years, fantasy football has become a huge industry. Why is that? And how much of an impact do you believe the Super Bowl has on fantasy football?
Let me just say personally, I feel that fantasy football is of the devil. So, and that's because I didn't win my league this year, which is something that I expect to do each and every year. No, I think fantasy, it goes hand in hand with what we just talked about vis-a-vis social media. You know, it allows a level of participation in the event that we never had before. You know, we can be involved, we can have a stake. You know, it's sort of gambling light in the sense that you get to have something on the line every week as a fan, and the kind of interaction that fosters and the kind of banter that it brings about at work is generally really fun, unless you can't handle losing like me.
Well, that's the end of our first round of questioning. When we return, we'll visit up close and personal with Professor Kluck. Our panelists will explore some of the critical issues facing college sports, including the prospect of paying athletes and the scandals at Baylor University and the University of Minnesota. We'll continue with Jackson 24/7 College News Conference right after these messages.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
The living room. It's a great place to watch TV. Just like your backyard, break time at the office, or waiting for your ride. Now you can watch TV everywhere. Stream your favorite shows or live TV from many channels in your cable package on any computer, tablet, or smartphone. It's all included with your E+ broadband cable TV for no extra cost. Sign up to watch TV everywhere today. Visit eplusbroadband.com to learn more.
If you watch Steve Beverly's TV classics, you may get a snack.
What do you say we toast some marshmallows, huh?
It's with your host,
Big Steve.
Some people watch even if they don't like the host.
Big Steve notwithstanding.
Yeah. What do smart viewers think?
Oh, Mr. B, you're just a doozy.
Steve Beverly's TV classics, Saturday and Sunday from 7 to 10 on TV6.
continue with author and journalism professor Ted Kluck on this edition of Jackson 24/7 College News Conference. Now, before we go back to the panelists, I wanted to ask you a few questions. So, for people who aren't familiar with your career as an author, tell us how that started and what interested you in sports journalism.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I was an athlete my whole life. I was a football player in college for a little while and had a pretty significant injury. And I sort of, at that time, had to kind of reinvent myself and figure out how I was going to communicate with the world after football. So for me, it really became writing. And I thankfully met a lady who was a much better reader and writer than me. And she gave me lots of great things to read and lots of inspiration. And got a big break with ESPN, the magazine, around late 90s, early 2000s, and that opened a ton of doors. And then 2006 was my first book. I wrote a book called Facing Tyson, where I interviewed a bunch of fighters that fought Mike Tyson. So, and then after that, it was all books for about a dozen years until I came here.
There you go. So journalism is under fire from a lot of fronts today. One national survey lists the public confidence in national journalists at an all-time low of 9%. So give us your take on what journalism has to do to regain some of that confidence.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we really just have to be great at the craft. You know, we have to be good at what we do. We have to be great writers. We have to be careful interviewers. We have to get things right. But we also have to do it with style and with class. And I think, you know, in the kind of soundbite world that we live in and the Twitter sphere sort of environment that we're in, there are fewer and fewer real writers. You know, there are fewer and fewer people, I think, who really care deeply about the craft. And here at Union, that's what I want to develop in our writers. You know, I want to give them lots of opportunities to write and write long and write well about whatever it is they want to tackle.
Very cool. All right, let's get back to our panelists. Our topics in this round are issues and controversies surrounding college athletics. We'll begin this round of questions with Seirra Person.
We have a long list of pro and college football players who have suffered severe health issues after concussions. What do you think are some of the possible long-term solutions of that?
Yeah, I think I always like to put responsibility in the hands of the individual. So I'm nervous about an environment where football is being legislated out and where we don't have the choice to play. I've given most of my life and a lot of my body to that sport, and I love it. I still coach. I actually coach at Lane College, so I'm on your campus a lot. And with your players a lot. Yeah, I know. You look familiar too, so good to see you again. But no, I love the game, and I think there's so much to be learned from the game, and I think it's a great, great game. And I think the culture is changing. You know, I think the culture at practices are changing at the high school level, at the college level. It's less of that macho kind of, you know, you get your bell rung and you stagger back to the huddle and keep playing. So guys are coming out, guys are being smarter about those choices and about the amount of hitting that goes on during the season and practice. So I think if we can care for players that way, we can maintain a great sport.
Okay. We recently heard that Bo Jackson say that he would not want his children to play football. A number of other athletes have said this. How do we change the mindset of coaches who still believe the game should be played the way it was 30 years ago?
Yeah, I just think education, you know, and it's sort of a pat answer, but I also think, you know, as a coach and as a player and as a dad, I read the same articles and I see the same news reports that Bo Jackson is seeing, and it really does give me pause, you know. I've got two little athletes living in my house, and I worry about them.